don't remember where we stopped, so we'll start. Did you go to a lot of weddings, after the war of your friends?
Not really.
Okay, just asking.
These weddings were so, very subtle, very little, somewheres, here and there. There was no big deal about it.
How about, did a lot of your friends give birth in Europe?
Yeah.
Was that a big cause for celebration?
I tell you, the situation was as such that there was no time or place for celebration. It was just like...
Was it important?
It was important, yes. But it was no... I would say the economic situation did not really allow us to do a lot of things that we are doing now in the normal life in the United States.
Okay, so let's separate two things. Let's answer the question, was it important first? Let's separate out the economics.
Was it important to have a baby?
Yes.
Oh yes, I guess.
Tell me.
I didn't have one in Germany.
Okay.
But I'm sure that to everybody that was the most important thing.
Why was that?
Why? It's very easy to understand why. We needed a family. We needed somebody to love and to be loved. And this is the main thing. That's why right away all these couples, I would say 90% the ones who married in Germany had babies, in spite of the situation economically and the way the people lived in these DP-camps. It's unbelievable. Scrambled together, it's so tiny places, and it was just taken in a stride. That's the way it is. We're hoping for a better tomorrow. But everybody who had a baby was thrilled.
So, you got married and you had a baby because of that reason?
I guess so. I didn't have my baby in Germany, and we certainly didn't plan to, because then we would have to wait until a certain age to go to America, and my husband was always afraid. But I became pregnant, and I almost did something. But since I am a coward by nature, I started to cry, and I'm afraid. My husband said, nothing doing, we're not doing anything, whatever will be, will be. And I came to the States, I was in my 8th month. I was 6 weeks.
What year?
This got 49. I came we came September 7th, 49, and my daughter was born October 49, October 13.
I want to go back just a little bit before you get there. What in Germany, before you met your husband, what work did you do? And then after, what kind of work did you and he do? What kind of jobs did you have before you?
Where? In Germany?
In Germany.
My husband was right away doing some business.
What kind
He
of?
bought, he didn't buy it and no money, but he was given allowance to get a couple of cars and a bus, so he was earning a living by transporting people.
Who gave him the allowance?
I think that the government there.
Oh, really?
Let him, yeah, I think so. I don't remember exactly the story because that was before I met him. Because money he didn't have. They gave him some kind of allowance to start a business. I think so.
And what were you doing?
I was, when I came from Poland to Austria to Germany, I told you I was trying to learn something which never happened.
Okay.
And then I got married, so, you know,
Okay.
and there was no place there to do anything, small town.
Now, prior to America, were people discussing with each other where they wanted to move?
Yeah, the story was some people went to Israel. My husband had an aunt in the States, his mother's sister, which they contacted right away after the war, and she was trying to help them to send some papers, which took years and years, of course. My cousin Sela, her husband, because our family had nobody here, and a living soul. We had some distant relatives in Israel from before the war. My grandfather's aunt and his family and her family moved to Palestine in 22, which is another story that we found them after years. But the States, not a living soul. So Sela's husband also had an uncle, and he also tried to take them. So when I got married, automatically my husband included me into this, the papers, whatever, so there was no question. I tell you the truth, I was so unopinionated about where to go. I really didn't know what I really would rather. I knew very little about America, very little.
How about other people around you, your friends? Were there discussions whether to go to Israel or Palestine or America? Or was it mostly a decision you were going to make strictly with your husband?
I guess that people did talk about it, but you know, it was very far away from us that time. No place was available to just go. So it wasn't like I'm taking my few things and I'm going here or I'm going there. You couldn't go there and you couldn't go here.
Okay. Did you think about going to Palestine?
Not really.
Okay.
Not so much. I never belonged to any organization. I was too young before the war. As a matter of fact, I remember being the summer in the country. I befriended a girl my age. She had a sister, was a few years older, and belonged to a Zionist organization. And she once said to her sister, you come with me. And I wanted to go also. I came to my mother and I said, I would never go any place without a permission. I was maybe 11, 12 years old. I said this, and my mother said, look, you are too young to know what it's all about. When you get older and you think that you would like to belong to a Zionist organization, it's fine. But you are a child, you don't know anything about it. I don't think you should go. Mother said, no, go. I didn't go. And my family was Orthodox, which did not go well with Zionism. I didn't have any special. I knew songs, you know, that we used to sing about Palestine, Israel, this, that, but not much knowledge about it at the time.
And how do you feel about Israel today?
I love it. I love Israel. Israel is like a part of my heart, and I'm so proud of it, so proud.
So who helped you to come to America?
Well, actually, it didn't go directly through his aunt, but there was this organization that came up, joined.
And Hayas? Is it Hayas?
Hayas and joined, and we came with a joint. It was 1949 when it started the immigration already. So we had to go through medical
Checkup?
medical checkup. mainly lungs were very much stressed, and we shouldn't have TB, you know. And some people were stopped because they had some not such clear lungs, but we did go through it and joined brothers. As a matter of fact, I came with my husband by plane.
You came by plane? That's
Yes,
extremely unusual.
because that time they started to bring pregnant women and people with very small children, which prior to that you had to wait, I think 6 months till you were allowed on a boat. So it just happened. I said it was a lucky thing for me that I didn't do anything because I had a chance.
Right.
We came by earth. It was 30 hours of flying with stops. They didn't have enough food. Didn't expect it's gonna go that. We survived it. We came, and they gave us places in hotels in Manhattan, little rooms, and gave us money for food. They really did a lot of
And
good
what,
things.
before I ask you the next question about America, I want to, Israel had become a state while you were still in Europe.
Yeah, and I got married that same time.
Was there a reaction?
Oh, people were,
What was it like?
yeah.
What did you do? Did you participate in anything, or did the people around you participate? And what did it mean to survivors that Israel became a state?
It was an amazing miracle because we felt that we were treated and killed because we didn't have our own place in the world. And that's what we were looking for 2,000 years, and it happened. It costed us our families' lives and everything together, but at least there was something that we could feel that something good came out in spite of all the tragedies.
So were you in the streets marching? Were you...
Everybody did, yes, sure. It was... I don't remember every single thing.
No, it's
so
okay.
long ago.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering.
I know
But
that we were all, excited,
And
emotional, excited to the third degree.
Okay, so we're going to go back. So in America, were you initially just by yourselves in this hotel, or did you know where your
No, the hotel was full of
survivors?
survivors. They took over the hotel, the joint, and they put all the people. That this was not used as a hotel at the time. They just rented out the hotel from the people who owned it for God knows how long, and they used it to put the people came down from boats, from planes. Where to go? You have to have a place to be. So this was their job. They paid for it. They had funds probably what people were donating. All the Jewish people were donating to the joint to help us, establish. We were in this hotel on 87th Street and near Birdway somewhere. A small room, Then when
How long were you there?
the 6 weeks before I gave birth to my daughter. When my daughter was born, they transferred us to another hotel.
Now, do you remember the name of the first hotel?
The first one I don't remember, but the second one I remember was Capitol Hall.
And where was that?
That was few blocks away, but this one had facilities that we had an access to a kitchen with refrigerators that we were able to make formula for the baby.
Now, one question about the first one. Was everybody friendly with everybody?
Yeah, hello, what you doing, where you going? People are running around looking for jobs.
Were people helping each other, or just letting...
No, they were helping as much as they could and what was being helped with. But people were very friendly because we were in the same boat, all of us.
Okay, so second hotel.
Second hotel was with a refrigerator and a stove to be able to make the formula. It was a mutual for a few people that lived in this room. Then
How long were you there?
she was born there. She must have been 2 months, something like that.
Now, while you were there, was your husband working?
Not yet, no. He wasn't working, and we got together with his sister, the one that I met in Munich that introduced me. She also had a little girl, 4 days older than mine, but she lived with the aunt. She came before us, 2 months before us, and she lived with the aunt. Aunt had a little 2-bedroom apartment, so she stayed there. But this was not a permanent thing. At the time, apartments, it was, after the war, it was impossible. We had a few dollars that we got, and we got a few dollars together and we bought an apartment. We bought the furniture. It was, in the Bronx, not too far from where the aunt was. It was a beautiful apartment, a lot of rooms, everything. But after a few months, after more than that, she started walking already. It was a year maybe. It didn't work out well with my sister-in-law. Like sister-in-laws don't always get together. So we separated and we rented a small apartment without heat. It was just a gas heater in a private house. It was terrible. After a while, a friend that I met in DP camp in Munich got an apartment in Brooklyn through some relatives that they had from before and gave us a push. We got a 1-bedroom apartment, but it was like a palace. There was heat and it was nice, painted floors. It was a pleasure. So we were there for 11 years in one living room. First of all, we bought a crib for my daughter, of course, a little chest and a bedroom set in the living room. Everything was chintzy, but it was. When my son was born, 4.5 years later after her, we slept on the couch, opened the couch every night, and we gave the bedroom to the children. In my living room then, it was a piano for my daughter, it was her bicycle, it was his carriage, everything was in the living room, and when you came, the living room looked very nice, and everything looked fine. How we did it, don't ask me.
Now, during those 11 years, who were your closest friends?
We pulled in slowly, one by one, and we made a big group of people from everything from the Holocaust, people that we knew from one friend that we knew from Lodge, that lived in the same building.
Give me the names if you can.
Sally Bress. And we pulled in my cousin Sella. I pulled in first. We pulled in her and she pulled in some others. We had about maybe 10 to 15 survivors' families.
So give me the names now.
Oh boy. Now it was my cousin Sella, Sally Bress, Helen Ennisman, Rita Nussbaum, forgot some names, because there were a few that I don't remember
That's
exactly
all right.
the names, because we didn't keep up afterwards. But with Sally till this day, with Helen till this day, with Helen Ennisman.
And what would you all do to? What
we
would you do together?
First of all, we're taking walks with the babies. Everybody had a baby, and the children were going to school together. So every afternoon it was taking a walk, and we were like standing on the front of the building, everybody with the carriages for a while, and socializing the women. And the kids became friends too, and they used to play around, and then they used to, when in bad weather, no school, they used to go to each other's houses. Whoever chased them out, they went to the next one, because they made too much turmoil. It was a small apartment. But the kids,
Grew up together.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. Some of them are still in touch since then. And after 11 years...
But during the summers, what would you do?
Oh, the summers. My daughter was maybe 2 years old. It was the second summer in this country, I would say, because I came, she was born 49, that was not 51, I would say. Somebody told us that there is such a thing, and the Catskills, and this and that, and we could, after July 4th, we could earn something, not because it was very hot in the summer. There was no air conditioning. P.S. together we went and we rented for the rest of the summer a bungalow. And that was in the vicinity of Ellenville. There weren't many, there were a few families there. But you could let the kids out by themselves in front of the bungalow to play. And this was a big deal, because who would let them out in the street, so you have to always... And somebody that recommended this said to us, if you're going to be there once, you're not going to be in the city anymore in the summer. And that was the truth, till this day. Even last summer I was still in the Catskills. We started not the same place, this was like a farm, chicken farm, and they had a few bungalows. But we started to go with the whole groups.
Would get larger and larger?
To colonies. And about 25, 26 years ago, we grouped in one place, Kayamisha Lake. And we were there till last year. The children go up there, they got married, they stayed away already. We continued, because for us, it was the most important thing. We were together all the time. Every night we played cards together. Your mother was staying with me for 2 summers, a couple of days, weeks. I wanted her to stay longer, but she never wanted to stay longer. It was wonderful. And this was like really family. It was in the group, in the big group, there were little groups. This is always the case. The best friend, the next best friend, the closer group, another group, but all survivors. That was one thing that made us go, because we understood each other. And one thing, there isn't a party, there isn't a gathering, we should not end up talking about war. Cannot exist till this day. It just comes out. If we want it, if we don't want it, it just comes out. Because the connection, it goes back there. And at the end of the evening, we are there.
What's the conversation like?
Oh, in the camp was this, and in the ghetto I worked with this one, and this happened. But it all is on this subject. It just comes
Oh.
out. We really don't want to. Not all the time, but it comes out, and we always say, no, again we are there. It's not going to leave us. Never.
So let's go back to Brooklyn. So you told me what the women did. What were the husbands doing?
Well, they were working, they were trying business.
Were they doing it together or separately?
Separately.
Did anybody do it together?
My husband and his brother-in-law, Anka's husband, they started out together, but they didn't end together. You know.
Okay,
Didn't
so
work
what
out.
kind of business did your husband
Oh,
have?
my husband was in all kinds of business. He had supermarket together with Sally Bress's husband. It didn't work out, they had to sell it. And they tried a fruit market. They didn't have the patience to wait it out. They saw it wasn't working well. They got out because they were afraid, They had to provide for the children and the wives, and they couldn't afford to play around. And then he got into clothing business, from one to another. And this is the way he stayed till
Most of his life.
Yeah.
Okay, so during the first 11 years in Brooklyn, did you start going to societies or was that later?
Later. When the kids were small, we didn't have
You
time.
didn't have the time.
We didn't have help in the house,
Right.
cleaning people. We had to do everything ourselves. It wasn't easy.
So the societies came in later.
Later, for us survivors, yeah.
Okay, so after Brooklyn, what did you do?
After Brooklyn, we moved to Queens, to Forest Hills, also because we knew people from our friends that moved before us. So we followed. It was just like following one another and creating groups. That was the second step, Forest Hills.
Okay.
So I came from our group, from the Brooklyn, I was the first one. Then came Stella, then came Sally, then came Helen. Everybody was, and we lived there, for years. But I moved out from there to this house 33 years ago. It was already, my daughter was already married, she was living in Maryland. My son was finishing his master's in college. He stayed in this house maybe 2 years, and then he moved out. So in this neighborhood was a whole group of people, some maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 families that we met in camp in the neighborhood, and we formed a card game group. Once a week, during the week, we used to have lunch every week in somebody else's house and play cards from let's say 12 till 5 o'clock, 4:30, it depends. And this was going on for years and years. It's only maybe 5 years that they just not
Since
alive.
people starting to pass away. Now, it was only when your children got older that the society started?
Yeah.
And you started, and that's, the societies you were part of was?
Well, first of all, they were organizing. First, we had a cemetery plots there to
Right.
them. There's a whole lodge.
So you're being buried together?
Yeah. My son said to me, I said, I don't like cemeteries. I get depressed when I get, but there's one cemetery in Lodge, which I was for 4 times since the last 15 years. I said, when I come there, I feel that I belong there. So he said to me just recently, he says, Mom, but your card game is out here.
So what did you say?
Well, that's true. Card game is here, but my mother is there. My grandparents are there. My great-grandparents are there.
And where are you going to be?
I'll be where my
Where your
husband
card
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cemeteries are depressing. Good. Okay. If I was to look at your bar mitzvah album, would I be seeing survivors at every table?
100%. No, with an exception. My husband's bookkeeper
Is an exception.
and his partner. He had a partner, American partner.
And they would be all the people that you knew from Brooklyn and all the people you knew from Queens.
From Queens, from Brooklyn, from Kemp, from all survivors.
Okay. So let me see, because you've answered a lot of my questions. Do your children, are your children close with the survivors' children?
With some, not necessarily.
But they
No.
grew up
They
with
grow
them?
up together and they still have that feeling. You see, Lola's daughter, my friend Lola lives in this neighborhood.
Right.
Her daughter, when she got married, she moved to Denver, Colorado. That's where her husband, he's a dentist. He felt over there he's going to be better. And she's could never forgive her for that, but except that she has a son who lives in Bayside, which is 15, 20 minutes from here, and two married grandchildren, a granddaughter and a grandson. She still cries over Rabin. And she was here, she came last Wednesday, she left last Sunday. She came for a wedding to a friend that she met in the Catskills when we were together, and they still in touch. Right. So she came to this wedding, and she didn't see, she's my son's peer, well, she's a year older. So these kids were always playing to, she says, oh, I have to see Warren, I didn't see him in years. Between being so busy, she dropped in for 15 minutes. And they didn't see each other maybe for 20 years, but they felt like they never left, you know. Oh, this one, this one, this one, this one. It's
The bond is there. But they're at a distance, so it's hard.
Yeah, that's what it is. Most of them are spread out in different states.
Israel, how important is Israel to the survivors?
Very important. Very, 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 very. It's.
And I'm not talking.
You know what? And we feel that this is our baby. It's our baby. We gave birth to this state of Israel. With our tragedy. Which is true. So with this, our baby, you love your baby. We love it. Love it, love it, love it. I've been to Israel so many times. And anything that's on television about Israel, anything that is written about Israel, it's my interest. Yeah, Israel is number one.
Is it much different, the feeling about Israel today, you think? Has it grown over the years, or was it always like that since the war?
It only grew bigger because I had the privilege to be in Israel so many times and seeing it grow. So naturally, it is. And the first years, I would say the first 20-some years that we were here, we were very preoccupied with our lives.
You mean the economics?
Economics, yes. Social and economics. language. It was not easy. It was not easy. And anyway,
Okay, the tape's, I'm gonna have to shut the tape off, so let's hold for a minute.